Hi there, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere, appreciate it. Today, we're continuing on with the series, focusing on Kevin Bibbins and finally doing a new map analysis whilst incorporating everything we've looked at into the past with the phone pings, times, events going on the day of the 28th of May 2022. It's about piecing it all together to get an understanding of where certain people were on the day, Memorial Day weekend, the day Dylan Rounds was murdered, right? We've looked at Brenner, kind of looked at Don Hatley there. There's not really much to go off from there at this moment in time. Kind of gone back and forth with Chase Venstra and Aviles. But let's focus on Bibbins today, because that's what the series has been for some time now. Now, it could do with a bit of explaining before we go any further. I appreciate people's patience. And of course, for those that are currently here in the live premiere, regular people, you may be already up to date and aware of what we've been doing recently. But for everybody else that's new, coming in for the first time or returning back, I'll give an explanation of everything that's happened recently, what the channel's been doing and stuff, and it might rejog some people's memories. In addition, for those that haven't seen my recent videos, be sure to catch up on them. Don't miss out. Top right corner of the screen on that eye symbol, you click on that, you'll be able to find the previous videos that have been covered on my channel, some of which are from a different mystery and case, but I'm sure it will gain your intrigue, okay? Down below in the comment section. So for those that are currently here, let me know your thoughts throughout this video, whether you agree or disagree with certain points and analysis and what you think about it, okay? And that can be along the discussions, right? People in the chat right now. Do you think Kevin Bibbins is responsible in some way or another for the murder of Dylan Rounds and / or the disposing of Dylan? I want to know your thoughts, okay? Maybe this video will help put things into perspective as we continue with the series, looking at it in different ways when it comes to Bibbins, who should be treated as a person of interest, whether it be because of their past criminal history, their connections to Brenner, who is the main suspect who has been charged, but also with Bibbins, the location, hence why we're doing a map analysis today, because the location of Bibbins is very interesting. And it does make you think, what would Bibbins have seen on the day if he was present? Now, before we rush any further, I'm aware some people could come out with an explanation, whether it be a fact or a possibility, if there was some kind of, what do you call it, alibi, that Bibbins wasn't on site at his place of living, he was elsewhere, he was out of town, in a different state on the day of Dylan's death. Even if that was the case, is it 100% true? And if it was true, even if it was true, what about the day after? The day after that, the day after that? The fact that Bibbins lives in Lucin, Utah is important enough. Just like Don Hatley, just like Brenner, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at. But for those people, viewers, okay, who may come to this video late, maybe catching up on replay a different day, leave all your comments down below. You want to engage? You got any questions? Any simple points? Anything you've got to say? Feel free to leave your comments down below under this video, okay? Help spread the awareness of the Dylan Rounds case. Only if you want to, feel free to like this video and share it so other people can see it, because the reality is, when it comes to Bibbins, it has gone quiet, okay? Other people may have talked about Bibbins in the past, but what about now? Besides me, really no one else as for coverage. So that's why I'm here and the time has come. Also down below, out of interest, there'll be some pinned comment by me. Feel free to check that out with some additional links. And if you do want to support this channel in some way or another, the links down below will explain it, and as well an anonymous method in case you're lurking in the background, you want to do some dodgy behavior, you don't want to reveal your true identity, well, the links are down below, all under control, okay? Just like Watch of Crazy's printer, she's not exactly revealing the manufacturer of where it came from, keeping it secret. That's completely off subject then. So, as I said, I want to give a brief explanation of what's going about in this video and the backstory to Bibbins as well. I think we'll do the backstory of Bibbins a bit later on in this video. Don't go anywhere. And I'll give a brief explanation of what this video is about, what it entails, and what's gone on recently in that sense, because we also need to acknowledge comments as well. Anything else? Also, to acknowledge the super chat by Cleo. Okay, shout out to Cleo for last night and her super chats as well in the comments section too. Very good of her. And if anyone is now a member on my channel from last night speaking and confused or figuring out who gifted it, last night I gifted out 5 memberships to people. It is at random. You can't exactly select who it goes to, but I was the one that gifted them out in case, you know, people that weren't present at the time or in the background weren't aware, just to explain that, right? So this video, yes, we're looking at a map analysis, an interesting one. We're also looking at a new location which I've picked up on the maps, which could highlight Bibbins' place of living, or we should say former place of living, considering what happened to Bibbins when looking back November, was it November the 8th or around that point of 2023? That'll be explained a bit later on in this video, okay? So we are doing a map analysis and we're comparing, contrasting with previous events, and on the day things happened to Dylan Rounds. You remember when I said about being the doctor? Okay, you get the scalpel, you separate all the different pieces, you analyze it, you focus on it, you make sense, and then eventually down the line you can stitch it all back together to create a more full picture. That's exactly what we're going to be doing today, and as well incorporating a new interesting location. I don't know if I would in a separate standout video, but there are locations I've never seen before on the maps, despite how long I've spent on them on Google Earth, whether it be Bing Maps or the outdated, supposed outdated Google Earth. Let me tell you something, after all this time looking on Google Earth, the location what I'm going to show you today I've never seen before. So that really puts into perspective how minuscule certain locations can appear on satellite imagery, right? Even when you might zoom on, skim past, you're not going to see everything all at once. So what it also raises is that idea that there's more than you think present. So the concept that Lucin is a ghost town, a very low population, whilst for most part of it could be true, is it 100%, right? Because the more stories we've heard over time, the more locals or supposed residents we've heard camping out there, living there or something, it doesn't sound as quiet as it was originally described. And I have said that a few times now, but I'll keep repeating it for every point and moment where more comes out about the story or a backstory. Like when it was aside from the Dylan Rounds case, but it tied in with the location and the weathering, just like for the search and possible remains and evidence that, what is it now? Was it June of 2023 or before that? It was in 2023, I think, when looking on Facebook and there was some post by certain individuals. I think I blanked out their identity or something out of respect for privacy and they wanted that, but they actually did a post about Lucin and actually shared photos out there because they live in Lucin, saying how it's flooded, the washes as well. You remember that time? It just made me think, another person. Someone that doesn't link to the Dylan Rounds case, that's probably why they were never brought up into discussions, but they are living out there. You get what I'm saying? The way the Dylan Rounds case and story has been told is, you've got Brenner, you got Don Hatley, and that's about it. There are other people out and about and further afar, kind of like how Kenneth Cooley roughly worded it, but when you look on the maps, there's more than you think. As said, I'm sure by now some people will catch on to that. So the original story, it just feels like there's only 3 people alive in the desert and that was all, that's all people saw. And then as the story grew, more and more people, whether it be people living there or present there temporarily. Walton, Michelle, the 2 campers day before of Dylan's death, and some other people living out there. Maybe today that can highlight some of those points. I don't know if I would do another map analysis in the future, just picking out locations where it looks like someone's living at. It might not be accurate enough due to the time or date. I do understand that people can live out there for a certain length of time, but most of them are in trailers, if not all of them, mobile homes. So they can always, leave at any point. It's not always permanent. So I think a map analysis on that wouldn't be as accurate, because the next time you look or go, depending on the situation, it might not be there anymore. So I do understand that. It's not a permanent population, could be temporary, but still, some of those people were around at the time of Dylan's disappearance. Did they see anything? I mean, did the police go around all of the, I don't know, you call it neighbourhood, all of the areas of people living nearby or further apart? Did they ask them? Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? I don't know. Maybe it just didn't really go to much depth or explanation. It's always about the key two individuals, Brenna, Don, Hatley. What about Bibbins, right? Another kind of important individual. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. And as well, we might as well acknowledge the last video and comments, okay? So, the last video that I did was, well, there was 2 lots, to be honest. I don't know if anyone remembers. Make sure to catch up on them if you haven't. I think they're kind of low down there in terms of awareness, but it is what it is. One of the videos was highlighting an update to do with Dylan Round's legacy, that a new YouTube channel has been established, right? Or at least new activity. A new plan has been activated on the channel called Missing in America or something. I think I provided the link in the last video or 2 ago. You'll be able to find it eventually. But Candice Cooley was basically saying, Candice Cooley, Jazz Girlson, 2 different, I don't know if we call them companies or organisations or something, teaming up together, hence you get this YouTube channel, which covers missing people in general and interviews the family members, right? Kind of like what you would expect or would have experienced with other channels, such as in the Dylan Rounds case, right? But this is more covering all kinds of missing person cases and getting their voices out there. And I guess the reason why Candice Cooley has done something like that is because at a time when someone like No Thanks Doug enabled Candice Cooley to come on to the live streams of his channel to get her voice out and to set the record supposedly straight and answer questions too. She was given that chance, that opportunity to share her voice. Now she wants to give back to others, hence why this new channel has been created. So it is kind of interesting. It is in the name of Dylan Round's legacy because it's about helping other missing person families out there who may be suffering, who may or may not have gone through the same as what Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, the family have gone through with their own missing son, Dylan Rounds, right? So, some new developments there if you do want to check them out. But as for the last video, the comments we're looking at, that was more to do with a direct Dylan Rounds update, which seemed to highlight a form of confidence that when it comes to the preliminary hearing of James Brenner, that of 2024, May 15th, for about 2 to 3 days it will last, that once that's over and done with, things will move on forwards with momentum and nothing more will be delayed. But in 2024, it's going to be the year that there might be justice, that there's not going to be as many delays, that it's not going to drag into 1 to 4 years plus and counting. That's what Candice Cooley said. Is it 100% true? I don't know, time will tell, but she seems very confident that that is the case. So that's what we were highlighting previously. You want it word for word. As I said, check my last video out or I symbol above, click there, you'll be able to find it, okay? Was there any other updates? Something to do with the death penalty obviously being taken off, but a good reason for it. Well, more than one good reason. Candice Cooley satisfied with because of that outcome in the end, which is interesting because she was originally disappointed, but now satisfied. So something must have gone on in the background, some kind of deal made or true explanation given. And Candice Cooley said it will be revealed in the future when possible. So it must be important, right? And also highlighting that, was it Dateline NBC or so? Going to be doing some kind of, was it CNN? Dateline NBC or CNN, whichever one, going to be doing some kind of documentary or full-on coverage, but that's once either the preliminary is completed or the entire court case trials. So there's things to expect for the future. Maybe it might pique people's interest. Check the video out if you want further details and directly from Kenneth Cooley. Okay. See, this is just like gathering up what's gone on recently. The other stuff that's happened was looking at the Kenny Veach case and situation. If anybody is interested in the disappearance of Kenny Veach, the mystery of the M-shaped cave, whether you've heard about it or not before, whether you want a change of subject or scenery, it's on my channel and it's been done from last night to the night before. An important series there looking at very important information. Never seen before text, conversations and emails with a person that works at CNN and emails with the official search and rescue commander at the time, right? All kinds of background information. You want to see that for the first time ever? Make sure to go on my channel and you'll find the videos right there, including most recently the official strange police report of Kenny Veach, which revealed all kinds of strange details and highlighted contradictions and lies by the girlfriend Sharon Pilgrim. There you go. So be sure to catch up on that. As for now, a little introduction out the way. Welcome to anyone else that has joined right now. We're going to acknowledge the comments from the last Dylan Rounds video I did. Answer any questions, any interesting additional information of interest, and see if any of it can link into the main part of this video later. Once we've got the comments out the way, then we can go on to the maps. And as said, I'm going to be incorporating different projects from the past. Those key can be explained, afterwards. So now, let's get into the YouTube comments. I will just adjust the comments to the latest, and we can start from the bottom, work our way up. So first of all, a person called Marina, not Maria, but Marina, saying, has it? Now, unfortunately, Marina never responded back when I questioned what were they referring to. It was a little vague, their comment. Nevertheless, above we got Skeptical once again. Shout out to Skeptical for her super chat from 4 days ago. I think I acknowledged it in a previous video, but might as well acknowledge it on screen whilst we're here and also read her comment out. She says, thank you, Ref, for not giving up on Dylan Rounds. Awareness is everything. It's true. And I guess as time goes on, that awareness, such as on the Dylan Rounds case, becomes more important than ever, mainly because more people than ever are walking away from the case, right? Because maybe people have had enough. Even more so, the people that create coverage on the case have walked away, right? I mean, when's the last time you saw Lance Kelly? Like months ago? I don't know what's gone on there. Ty Corbyn seems to spend more time commenting about me having, parts of female anatomy on the chest area rather than talking about Dylan. So I guess that's where their priorities are at. But that aside, as I've always said, if there's stuff to cover on the case, then that's what I'll do. And it just so happens that today there are important points to cover. Response-wise, appreciate that. Skeptical, will be a long wait until the hearing. I'm looking forward to some justice for Dylan, family and friends. Also notice you're closing in on 9.5k subs. So, at this moment in time of speaking, I have managed to reach 9,500 subscribers, which is very good. So shout out to all the new people that have subscribed to the channel in recent time. I think some of it may have been through the short videos that I've done. So that's a positive to see some growth there and bringing people into the right direction. Now, I don't know if others are aware out there. I set, a bit of a target, okay, bit of a milestone if it was possible that I don't know when I really set it. Maybe when I reached 9,000 subscribers, I initiated it. I said, is it possible for the channel Warlight Ref to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, 2023? Is it possible to go into the new year starting it off with 10,000 subscribers? Is it possible? Now, at the time, majority of people said yes. And, there's still chance of that happening. at 9,500 subscribers. Just got to get another 500 people from now till the end of this year. Seems a bit of a stretch, but I'll try and do some short videos in between, such as on Kenny Veach and stuff when I get time, and just try and get it going, but still in a natural way, of course. Okay. So shout out to Skeptical once again. Of course, Cleo too. You're welcome, and it's good. I might as well. Do you know what? I was going to do a separate video. Maybe I can do a separate video, Cleo. So like when it comes to your video ideas and shorts, I'm going to do a standalone video. Okay, Cleo. So it's a bit more one-on-one and more relevant. Okay, because right now we're doing Dylan rounds, but maybe after this I'll try and record it if possible. We've got Glenn too, still around. That's all good. Christy, what does Christy say here? With the deal they made initially, Dylan's parents accepted to not being told where their son is, means that finding their son is not priority number one. Brenna's punishment is. I can't understand this. So I understand what Christy is getting at here. Do I agree to the maximum? Not quite. I mean, I'll read your comment out, Christy, once more, but kind of in my mindset. Okay, and then compare and contrast from there. So, with the deal that was originally made, the deal being no deal really made, more so rejected, turned down at the time, probably before 3rd of March 2023, around that time where Brenna opened up to his attorney that he's willing to reveal the location of Dylan Round's body where it was, buried. But the parents didn't want to accept a potential deal in that process. But they were more about finding their own son by themselves, not by making a deal with the devil, the one responsible for Dylan's death. I can get that. Their pride, their stubbornness, as what's got in the way, may have clouded their judgment as well, right? Bit hard-headed too. So they've accepted, technically. They're probably not going to admit it themselves, but technically with their dismissal of that potential offer with Brenna, the parents have accepted that they've made it harder on themselves when trying to locate their son. They've made it harder for themselves, technically speaking. Does it mean to say that it's not their priority in finding Dylan, that their focus is more shifted onto Brenna's punishment? And now in their mindset, it could go hand in hand. I would say that finding their son is still the main priority, just because when we look at Candice Cooley's post in recent time about the canine dogs deployments, 2 of which where there was an alert, a verified alert out there at some point in 2023, those private searches taken place, whether Candice Cooley was directly there at the time or not, but resources were issued out there, and Candice Cooley and possibly Justin Rounds too, raising that money for that canine task force to be able to do what they do for their son, but also others out there. It seems like that's still the main focus. But you could argue and say that the priority in finding Dylan won't be as top spot as it is, or it won't be top spot when coming around to winter time, because you can't be searching really, can you, when the weather's bad? So maybe times where you can't be doing what you want to be doing or what you should be doing, the priorities shift elsewhere, right? So like with Dylan Rounds, at the time, his number one priority, 99 or 90% of the time, was farming, whether it be for his own business, his own farm, or somebody else's. When none of that could be done, pack up, leave, visit family, maybe visit friends, and repeat. That Dylan's priorities with farming was more important to him than it was for family gatherings, meal times, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, birthdays. That Dylan did visit on those occasions, but not hanging around long enough, then up and going to do his farm work or somebody else's. So, you know what? What I would say is, whilst... and this is just to demonstrate balance in case you're wondering why I'm going to say this. If people are going to question Candice Cooley and maybe Justin Rounds too for having certain priorities which may seem slightly confusing at times or a bit questionable, let's always reflect back on Dylan too and say that, it's interesting how Dylan Rounds put, above everything else, work before family, right? Maybe it doesn't sit well for some people there. I know people in general will say, well, we're not here about questioning Dylan Rounds because Dylan Rounds is the victim in it all. But once again, this is just about demonstrating balance. If you're going to question that person, well, let's question that one too. Okay? So I get what Christy is mentioning here about making it harder on themselves. The focus on Brenna's punishment, I would say is true, Christy. Previously, at least, when they were pushing for the death penalty, I think that priority on Brenna's punishment has maybe gone down the hierarchical list, as we've heard, because Candice Cooley seems to understand now why Brenna can't get the death penalty, but she's satisfied with the outcome. So maybe things have shifted about since. Moving on, we got June saying, guess Candice Cooley put everyone in their place. She's tired of repeating herself and the pea-brains who can't understand why the death penalty is off the table. Has Candice Cooley put everyone in their place? I don't think so, technically speaking. That's just because some people out there have their own mindset, strong-willed, maybe not always for the right reasons, but I can't think of examples on the spot. If you know of any where Candice Cooley has tried putting someone in their place and it didn't work out, let me know down below. I guess you say there was counter-resistance that time when Candice Cooley was out in Lucin Desert and you had the police officer or detective with his wife, 2-on-1 that time. That was a weird photo taken. I don't know who it was actually taken by. It wasn't Candice Cooley, somebody else. Does anyone remember that time? As for Candice Cooley criticising the LE, it's not been as public, has it, in recent time, or even over the last year, 2023. But from what Candice Cooley has said in some news articles or the odd interview here and there, she's still disappointed how things have been delayed or expected more to come out of stuff. But at this moment in time, the very last post, what we saw, as I summarised earlier, that there seems to be momentum in the favour of Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, the family, the parents, in getting justice for Dylan. We'll see how that plays out down the line. Smooth Fishing, what does he say? I haven't agree with most of what Candice Cooley says or the ways of a decision she has made, but I don't completely agree with her comment, but I do in a way about closer. There is a little closer when people or a person is punished for their actions, but you never get over the grief from losing a child, but you really don't get closer from that. Is that to do with the closure? Candice Cooley has no control over it dragging on in court. Brenna's lawyer can keep putting it off and there isn't anything she can do about it. Thanks for remembering my situation. You're welcome. Okay, fair enough. Fair comment. Did mention that when it comes to Candice Cooley, she can come off as confident, certain, for definite in a language, but doesn't always translate well. The only example I can put up there on the spot was the time where Candice Cooley said the final continuance, and then the hearing was delayed once again. And then after it was the true final continuance. So they got that wrong there. Obviously, Candice Cooley did mention in a Facebook post that we don't have control over everything, that things are out of our control. So that could translate in terms of the odd delay in the future. I mean, at least for me, all I would say is when the preliminary hearing comes about, whether it be the lead up to it, the actual event, or what follows after, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a delay at some point, and that's only because it's happened so often previously, so you can get used to it. What else do we have? Final comment by Rachel. Welcome, Rachel, to the channel, saying the family knows they don't want Dylan found. Will Brenner speak? Can he? So this is a bit of a abstract comment, kind of different from what we normally see. Is Rachel on the Jim Terry side? I don't know. I just basically said proof, just see what people say in response. Rachel says, they had money problems. Do they have money problems now? Dylan wanted out. She did not care for her gay son. Uh-oh. Nobody wanted Dylan to farm this property. He knew too much, and he still does. Money, greed, and usage of substances. Let's not forget the religion that isn't. Take care, handsome. Okay, appreciate that, Rachel, for the last point of the comment. It's good of you to say. So we've gone over these things in the past. Is there enough evidence to really reinforce it and hammer it home? I don't think so. Of course, we've seen some people very strongly opinionated when it comes to these type of talks from the dark side out there in the true crime community. I mean, I could just add on one final point just before we get into the map analysis. So what I'm about to say isn't directly from my mouth, but it's to reiterate in general what people have been getting at over time, which could tie in with Rachel's comment, is that some of the general public with time believe or think that whether it be both the parents, the Justin Rounds, Candice Cooley, or one or the other, are in a situation where they don't want to find their son. They can't be bothered, or there's a deeper reason as to why they don't want to find their son, because they're tied up in the case in some way or another, or they're benefiting out of it. As said, it's not coming from my mouth, but that's what other people have suggested with time. Now, if that was ever the case, how are they benefiting? You know, if it ties in from what Rachel said about them having money issues previously, do they have issues now, or are they better off because of the situation with the Dylan Rounds case? If that was true, where would money be coming from? Had they asked for donations and PayPals and cash apps and any other thing out there? Not from the looks of it. Talked about fundraisers, right? The Dylan Rounds Legacy clothing range coming out at some point. Money raised there in time. The previous Ron's Tyre Motor Show, whatever you call it, event, which occurred back, was it June or July the 5th, where money was raised there. That's all I've really heard, unless there's background stuff going on as some people would push out there, but I would revert back to kind of early on, okay? When you say money issues, in response to Rachel's comment, are you referring to both parents having money issues or just Candice Cooley, right? Maybe you're just referring to Candice Cooley. But at least in the early days when reward money was put out there, and it was put up by Justin Rounds, how it's been worded with time, $25,000 just like that. Then eventually later on, $50,000 just like that. And then jumping right to $100,000. Candice Cooley said herself that she was thinking of raising it a bit higher, but then Justin decided to just double it to 100,000. And then later, Heavy D, his crew, got involved and matched that 100,000 to make it 200,000 reward money. Did it ever get put to good use? Like, was it ever given to anyone? No, not in that sense, because no one reached out with intel or information. Is that because people are very tight-lipped, or is it because they genuinely don't know anything else besides what they may have already said? One or the other. So I guess with the stagnation of money just sitting there, what's the point of it? It should be used in some way or just put back into the bank account or so. So it was officially withdrawn. I assume that the 100,000 by Heavy D was given back to Heavy D. There were some comments, maybe by Glorin Dillon or somebody else, saying that the money from Heavy D wasn't directly put into the pool, but they still had control of that money, so they didn't miss out. That's what I remember hearing from some people. But the initial 100,000 withdrawn, I'd guess, put back into Justin Rounds' possession. If he's the one that put the money out there in the first place, he should get it back, right? I did question there about, with that $100,000 reward money withdrawn, was any bit of it spent in the Dylan Rounds case for resources, equipment, or Dylan Rounds' legacy? I don't know. It was never mentioned. You know, if it's their own money, they can do what they want with it, but Just a simple question, was it ever used in other ways? Because if that money was going to be put out there, given to some stranger, if it led to information finding to Dylan being recovered and the arrest and trial and conviction of Brenner, if that's how the money was going to be put to use, then there's no harm in using it in other ways in the case to maybe succeed in finding Dylan in other ways or getting other people involved to help and assist. I would get that if it was used in that sense, but I don't know ultimately because I've not seen any updates or mentions there. When it comes to the Candice Cooley side, if that's where people are really pushing it with the money issues and people supposedly reaching out who've worked for Candice Cooley in the past who have had money taken by Candice and have struggled with time and it's never been given back, that's aside from the Dylan Rounds case, isn't it? What's ever happened or what supposedly has happened in the past has happened in the past. It may still drag on for people out there that have suffered or have had something taken from them, supposedly by Candice Cooley. But how does any of that tie in with the Dylan Rounds case? I guess general public, some assuming that with the disappearance of Dylan, well, they can profit off of the disappearance. I think that's what people have been pushing at times. Then linking back to where money has been raised, besides, Cash Apps, PayPals and all that, what you might see on other platforms besides the family, where money has been raised, it has been done somewhat successfully and it has made a positive impact elsewhere. And I know people could say, well, where's the proof of it? Well, such as the updates provided and reposted by Candice Cooley, but initially posted by the K9 Task Force that have heavily assisted with the usage of dogs, cadaver dogs, in the search for Dylan Rounds over time. Was it like a voluntary type group? They don't get paid directly, but they can be supported to do the work what they do through donations and money being raised with time, hence the Ron's Tyres Motorsports event, which happened previously. I don't know if it's going to happen again. I can't remember if it was hinted at, but I guess with Dylan Rounds' legacy, where people can buy clothing in memory of Dylan and items and badges and stickers and patches and stuff, the proceeds will go towards K9 Task Force or some other maybe charities out there. The fact that it's happened previously and K9 Task Force have posted the impact it's had, the money being raised and going into their organisation successfully, and nothing dodgy going on, no money going elsewhere where it shouldn't. It was proven to be a success and it was a practical benefit to that organisation. So an action like that didn't lead to any dodgy outcome there. So it seems quite clean and good and positive, right? I'm just giving an example on the spot. If people have negative recent examples of what might have gone on with certain people within the case, within the right reasons, maybe feel free to explain it down below. But what I would say is, at the end of the day, just my opinion, I'd say that Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley do care about trying to find their own son. If they didn't, then they just wouldn't be out there searching to begin with, right? Because being out there, you got to cover distance to get down there in the first place and fuel cost too. And then just wandering around in a desert where it's probably not exactly comfortable, depending on the temperature, if it's too cold or too hot, and distance covered, whether it be on foot or not, going around in circles. The repetitive nature of it can also get a bit boring, draining and straining with time after how long it's gone on for. I just think if there was not much care, then there wouldn't be much physical activity, no physical approach made. Some people could be very specific and say, well, Justin Rounds shows care by physically going out there more so than Candice Cooley. And those people that say that might be more suspicious of Candice Cooley because she's not as hands-on, right? But then again, Candice Cooley may be more hands-on in other areas of the case, whether it be with certain authority or stuff online, Dylan Rounds' legacy, more long-term action, whereas Justin Rounds is more short-term, more physical of an approach, right? The reason why I say what I say is because I can compare it to another missing person case where there was a significant lack of proactiveness, and that's the Kenny Veach case. In 2014, the 10th of November, when Kenny Veach went missing out in the Mojave Desert, Nevada, USA, and lives in Las Vegas, okay, as a resident. When Kenny Veach was eventually reported missing, even though the girlfriend said that she reported him like a day or two after, which was a lie, suspicious in its own right, leaving it 5+ days, leaving it that long, knowing someone's out there missing, but oh well, and supposedly having that sense that Kenny Veach is suicidal. I'll just leave it 5 days on top of the fact he's out there in the wilderness. Nah, it'll be okay. Oh, and now I'll report him missing. That's strange in itself, right? That the family in general, even the daughter Vicky Veach, right, and others, maybe of an older age at the time, okay, did really any of them go out there physically searching for Kenny? No, they didn't. All I'm saying is, if people are going to be suspicious of the likes of Candace Cooley, Justin Rounds for not caring or not wanting to find their son, well, how come they're out there physically? Unlike other missing person cases where they don't even go out there to begin with, or even put out missing person posters, or even any reward money. There's no urgency, right? But there seems to be more urgency with Candace Cooley, Justin Rounds, because at what point did the cameras turn on and started rolling on the Dylan Rounds case? Was it immediate? Not exactly. I mean, on the 30th, which was like 1 to 2 days after radio silence from Dylan Rounds, that's when the mother Candace Cooley and Justin Rounds got involved, okay? Talked amongst family. Did you hear from Dylan? No. Right, something's wrong. Let's get down there quick. And on the 30th, reporting Dylan as missing as soon as possible, quicker than what the girlfriend did with Kenny Veach. So I can put that into comparison there, okay? Eventually, cameras, I guess, started rolling, but not immediately, okay? If you talk about like an online presence where, you know, you could benefit with in terms of monetary gain, at least from the perspective of Candace Cooley, it's not like she appeared on interview after interview immediately on day one. Not exactly. There's a bit of a delay in between. I think there was even a bit of reluctancy to participate on YouTube because they didn't have a positive outlook on the platform itself, right? If you were all about, right, let's benefit here, let's make the most of this there, you'd be getting right on in as much as possible, as soon as possible, but that wasn't really the case here. So, once again, I'll just say, I do think the family care about trying to find Dylan, because they've physically shown it in some way or another, and even when it comes to trying to keep the case going, it's been demonstrated there. But I do understand not everyone will agree with that. And if you disagree, you can leave your comments down below. But with that aside, now we move on to the main part of this video to do with Kevin Bibbins, okay? Mentioned Don there, but I guess the focus, what we've done on Don at one point was fairly focused, wasn't it? I don't know if it would be considered a series as what we've done with Kevin Bibbins. Probably not, because I've not really seen the criminal record of Don Hatley. I don't know how bad it is. Tyler Feller said it wasn't as bad, so if that's something to go off from, maybe. But Kevin Bibbins. Before we get onto the maps, brief backstory with Kevin Bibbins. Kevin Bibbins arguably has a worse, more deadly, more dangerous criminal record than the likes of Brenner. That says a lot, right? Examples to do with Bibbins. It's all documented officially on my channel with official court documents from the past which highlight what Bibbins got involved with. You can check back if you want. But roughly quoted, Bibbins got done for attempted murder. Actual attempted murder. Attempted rape. Okay? And as well, altercations with physical violence, assault, even with the police. Okay? So numerous forms of getting in trouble with Bibbins over the space of time. Okay? Repetitiveness just like Brenner, but more serious, right? You look at Brenner, malicious wounding, such as Maryland, that's where it was reduced to. But in court with Bibbins, it was treated individually as a separate case as attempted murder. Attempted wounding, attempted murder. Which is worse? The one on the left, right? And that's Bibbins over Brenner. As for Bibbins and Brenner knowing each other, much of friends, I don't know exactly, but at least a point in the past where Bibbins did look out for Brenner by helping him get about to places, giving him free lifts, rides to wherever for shopping, whatever, because at the time Brenner did his leg in, his ankle, it was messed up, injured, somewhat incapacitated. It did enable Brenner to benefit though with disability allowance, so Brenner wasn't too upset about it, but Bibbins did help out. Was it because Bibbins felt some form of guilt if involved? Maybe. But with Bibbins doing what he did with Brenner, they were kind of close in that sense, in proximity. Then when you apply it onto the maps where one another lives, that's close as well. And it will make more sense when we get on it just about now. So for anybody watching or thinking of leaving, don't make sure to focus in. It's now time to do the map analysis. And the aim of it is, in case you didn't know, this is all in relation to the 28th of May, 2022, the day Dylan Rounds was murdered, incorporating the timestamps of what we previously looked at, Brenner's whereabouts or so, and incorporating it with where Bibbins lives. How much did Bibbins witness at the time? That's the question. Here we are. You know, at first glance, too many markers, too much text. What are we looking at? Don't worry. It's all under control. It'll be explained and we'll, get through it bit by bit. I guess, first of all, it would make the most sense to find and locate Bibbins' place of living, at least at the time. And as well, just to cut on in, because I didn't mention it just before, at the time of where he lived, not at this moment. And you could say, why did he move away? Not really. He was arrested around November 8th, 2023. Arrested, pulled over or apprehended at the music hall, whichever one, West Wendover. Is it 300 Boulevard, the name of the road or so? Basically, somehow things led to another where police came along and found that with Bibbins, he had a firearm in his possession and he wasn't supposed to, so that's why he got in trouble there. As for his dogs or dog, they were taken care of and put into a place of safety. Okay, so they're okay, the dogs. I don't know how long Bibbins will spend where he's at, locked up or apprehended by police in custody. I don't know how long it will take. When will he be released? Well, if there are any updates in the future, I'll let you know. But linking back to the location of Bibbins, is in Lucin, was confirmed by the odd Montello local out there in Montello. Montello local has also been in the presence of Bibbins in the past, has learned stuff about him, right? Such as his behaviour, the trouble he's got involved in with time, and also where he lives. And one of the Montello locals did take a photo of Sun tunnels also at one point, or somebody else did, and that Montello local confirmed that in the distance facing south, where the photo was taken of Sun tunnels, further down towards the corner, the edge of the Sun tunnel area, that's the location of where Bibbins lived. Now, this is the thing, I didn't see it initially, had to zoom on in, I kept looking about at like 1 to 2 different locations, but I think one of them stands out to me the most. We zoom on here, okay, I said we'll explain the markers shortly, but you see Sun tunnels here, right, near to that crossroad there, going north to the Grainshed property, going east goes to Dylan's farm over there, south just down this way if you're going to West Wendover, and northeast is that? Yeah, south. And if you're going west this way to Lucin Hill and around, so if you use to cross the border to Montello, Nevada. But Sun tunnels, it was weirded as that there was a clearing or something. I don't know if that's by truck usage, man-made, maybe make a clearing for what, not quite sure. But it was described that Bibbins' property was at the edge of Sun tunnels. I was trying to work out initially because I didn't know exactly where I was supposed to be looking, right? I think I came up with another location where there was like a pivot or something, but that didn't seem to be the case. It was too far away. Zooming here, you see it much clearer on Bing Maps, but you know where it's a bit dark there, right? Can you see that road? There's a gate. There's a gate there. You follow the road down, it does seem to lead to a property. Now, it's very hard to see, but you can see some buildings, right? Initially, at first, I thought this was Bibbins, but I don't think it is, right? It's near to Sun Tunnels, though, so it's a suggestion. If you go on Bing Maps, it's a lot clearer, okay? I think it might be a trailer as well at some point. See those white objects? That a trailer or some equipment, and maybe a white RV trailer there hidden by the trees and bushes. Anything else present? Can't quite see. But the outline of the property, I think it is fenced off or something, because the colouring does seem a bit darker and it makes it out like some kind of, we call it a cube or something. I don't know how far. Maybe it's down here. If that is the fence, it's kind of hard to see on this map. But definitely an outline of his property. I think it's just there. It's like a square box or so. So it seems private property, private road with a gate as well, not easily accessible. Am I saying that this is Bibbins' property? No, but initially I thought it was, because it is kind of near to Sun Tunnels, right? If anyone wants to correct me and say that this is Bibbins' property, feel free to do so. I'm going to leave you the coordinates if you're interested. I'll read them out on the screen if you can't quite see them. It says 41, 17, 46 north, 113, 51, 49 west. Close that off. The one that stood out to me is where that blue marker is. It follows in line with this whiteness, whether it be the clearing made with time. Kind of, is that near to the wash as well? Yeah, see that brown stuff, the wash, which wraps itself around and comes up this way past the grain shed property and past the pond, as you see there. You follow it down, work your way down, follow it. Ends up being kind of in parallel to Sun Tunnels, as you see here, where this brown line is, okay? Doesn't look much of a wash, doesn't look as defined here on this imagery, whether this be the end or start point, but it just happens to be in line where it meets down here with the marker. Now, let me know if you can see it on here. You probably can. But this is an example of something I've never seen before, right? And it's always been there, at least on the satellite imagery we've been looking at. Just never really needed to look in a specific spot. But upon finding it, zooming on in, okay? Are they two lots of trailers? Maybe. You definitely have a white RV trailer, maybe a reddish coloured truck, and then that green, is that a container unit, maybe for storage, or a secondary trailer like Dylan Rounds? I think that this is Kevin Bibbins' place of living originally, and at the time of Dylan's death, right? It was definitely confirmed by Montello Local or so, who knows Bibbins, as to Bibbins living in Lucin, right? And this is my interpretation of the spot based on the description given by that Montello Local when you look past Sun Tunnels south, okay, and you see this in the distance, right? So if anyone wants to correct or reinforce, feel free to do so. But the importance of this is trying to put into perspective of, if you're in a situation like here, this is the location of where you live, what do you see going on at the time of Dylan's death, right? Do we need to flip the image in any way? Not really, because it's not exactly 3D, is it? We probably can. I mean, look, you can make out a dirt road, right? Thin line, right? You follow it up. Where does it lead to exactly? Leads onto a main dirt road, as you see here, branching on. Which, that dirt road does go past that other property here with its own private road. So once it connects onto this dirt road from where we've come from, which you see lightly coloured with Bibbins' home supposedly being over that way, we're currently facing east. If we point north and follow it down, as if you know, Bibbins was to drive down, he'd be passing Sun Tunnels, and then he would have the option to go straight onto the Grangeshed property or turn right to then go to Dylan's farm, or left to go on to maybe Montello. So you see the choices and options of roads and how it links in. You want maybe a possible measurement, okay? We can do that. Just got to remember how to do it on here. The layout changed. Let's do something like that. Sun Tunnels from that point there. About 1 mile from the crossroad of Sun Tunnels down to Bibbins property. Now, I didn't do it on the actual road itself. I'd probably be a little bit longer. We'll just do it anyway. So from the crossroads at Sun Tunnels to the private road which goes off to that other property, whether it be Bibbins or not, is 0.49 miles. Though if we go to this place of interest with the blue marker, it's a bit longer, 1.4 miles or so. It's a bit of a longer route if you take the official dirt road. As for the distance of Grangeshed property, roughly done, straight down here, it's like 1.68 miles from Grangeshed property down to near Sun Tunnels, where Walter Michelle was on the day. Again, all the way down to here. So Bibbins property is about 3 miles or so. Okay. So, that being in mind, you see the blue marker of Bibbins' home from Sun Tunnels and the Grangeshed property up there. Okay. I'll just briefly explain the rest of the markers. Right, I said it's all to do with the 28th. So, down here, about 6:50 a.m. before 6:50 a.m. Dylan waking up. Now, whether it be the last news article what we read, or interview, or documentary, I think it actually gave an actual time of when Dylan likely woke up in the morning, maybe 5 something to 6 something. I can't remember, okay? This project is, was done in the past. It's not changed too much since, though. That's why it's not really been edited. But we know Dylan Rounds would have woke up before 6:50 a.m. because the next timestamp will make it clearer. 7:43 a.m., that's later on in the day. So 28th of May, 2022, the day of Dylan's death, waking up before 6:50 a.m. and then going east down this road. No, northeast, south. Going west, going west, Dylan would make. Okay, passing Sun Tunnels and then heading north up the road up that way. And supposedly round here at the gate, which was described as locked, that it received a new lock, but Dylan supposedly had a key so he could access the place anyway. It was 6:51 a.m. roughly when Dylan Rounds made a call to the grandmother, Karen Rounds, about what he'd be doing and calling back afterwards when it's done, parking grain truck, grain shed. Shortly after 6:57 a.m, Dylan attempts to call Brenner, but no answer back. Don't know why that was necessary, maybe to alert Brenner of what was happening. Coming down here, Dylan parks his truck supposedly in the grain shed. 7:03 a.m, Dylan at shed, supposedly expected. And then it went a bit quiet. Next timestamp, ping, whatever you want to call it, 7:27 a.m, nearly roughly rounded up to about 30 minutes of silence from then till this video recording later found by police on Dylan Round's phone depicting Brenner in trailer cleaning a gun, blood on his shirt, and later found DNA of evidence of Dylan, which was found on that shirt. A little bit dodgy, right? Incriminating evidence, one of the key turning points in this case, right? But what happened after 7:27 a.m. when Brenner was then in possession of Dylan Round's phone? Where it links back to Dylan's farm. Okay, just follow it down. 7:43 a.m. is the time that Dylan Round's phone leaves Grangeshed and then later arrives at Dylan Round's farm, hence the marker down here. A total of 30 minutes spent in this area, until Dylan Round's phone leaves his property back to Brenner's trailer. So you would think if Brenner was in possession of Dylan's phone at 7:27, likely Brenner would have been in possession of Dylan's phone when the phone pinged down at Dylan's farm, right? And then back to Brenner's trailer. Then what happened? Not much at all. Fast forward later on into the day, around 2:51 p.m. Previously, it was worded as 3:51 p.m, but it changed to 2:51 p.m. And then Mob Crew Chris, who went back to this case 3-4 months ago, still had the 3:51 timestamp phone ping. It's a little bit confusing, I'll be honest with you. But at least the next and final phone ping was over in that direction. As you can see, Lucin pond, Dylan Round's phone dumped in the pond to try and destroy evidence, maybe. And that was it. And it was supposedly by Brenner because it was on the direction and route and time of when Brenner left to go to Don Hatley's for the barbecue get-together. Okay? You could say, well, where does Bibbins play in all of this then? Well, it comes down to how much did Bibbins see? Just like as to the question of how much did Don Hatley hear about when Brenner visited him on the day after what Brenner supposedly did, right? Did Brenner open up to Don Hatley? Did Brenner ever open up to Bibbins, or did Bibbins see it for himself? Did Bibbins hear any gunshots, right? Sometimes you don't always have to see stuff going on, you can at least hear it. Maybe hear a commotion, hear lots of noise, hear a gunshot, because if Dylan is presumed killed by a gun and the 7:27 a.m. may depict that of Brenner cleaning a firearm which may have been used, did anyone hear any gunshots? And unfortunately, no one's come forth or said, you know? And that can apply to the general public within the area, because I did say there were other people living out and about there with the trailers, with the maybe farms and stuff. Did anyone hear gunshots? And no one has answered. Strange, isn't it? Very strange. I mean, maybe the supposed people of interest that were interviewed at a point may have been questioned about it and they said no, but what about everyone else? The others out there, the outsiders, etc. Right? Was there any key points missed out? Yeah. The only other one, I said, 28 witnesses, Walt and Michelle, a couple that were hiking out at the area of Sun Tunnels, visiting the location on the same day of Dylan's death. But it was later on in the day, after Dylan's death, so they probably wouldn't have seen or heard anything like that, nor would they have seen the person such as Brenner going down to Dylan's farm, right, to search about or steal, nor would they have seen Dylan driving early on in the morning from his farm to the Grainshed property, because they just weren't there. They got there later on in the day. But what Michelle and Walt did see was a truck, a Jubilee truck, leaving Grainshed property, as that marker demonstrates there. And it was around the time of just after 3 p.m. into the afternoon, truck leaving Grainshed on the same day of Dylan's death. Very suspicious, never followed up on. The police, LE, FBI ignored it, brushed it off. Candice Cooley brushed it off when Weezer tried reaching out. You get the pattern. A very important missed opportunity. Who was behind the truck on that day? Why did they come down to the Grainshed property in the first place? Was anyone there to greet the truck driver or not? Because if we hear about Brenner was leaving to go to Don Hatley's and that the final phone ping was supposedly at 2:51, well, Brenner would have already been gone before the truck arrived. So I don't know how that would have played out unless it was planned earlier on in the day. All I would say is, if the final phone ping at the timestamp of 3:51 before it was corrected, if that is true, well, then it would probably tie in with truck arriving before 3 p.m, Brenner still being on site and giving orders or directions to that driver of what to do next. Let's just say whether to be a delivery, drop-off, or a pickup, such as, here's Dylan's body, drive it over there, and we'll sort out after. All kinds of dark mysteries. That is probably one of the most mysterious parts within this case, because that truck driver was never located nor found, nor the truck, nor was there a follow-up. One of the biggest mysteries and possible missed opportunities in this case, right? Now, I can't remember what the story was, whether Walter and Michelle said it turned left or right. Did it go south? Did it go east or west? Because could that tie in with Bibbins in any shape or format? Now, they say a dually truck. What colour was it? Did it say red or blue? One of the colours. I don't think it would link with Bibbins. Bibbins is a white man van, or a white van man, I should say. Yeah, it'll make more sense in a second. But with all those, points mentioned, really summarised quickly. Down here, supposedly, what can you see from this point of view? It's a bit clear, it's a bit open. Can you see much in the distance? You probably can see the road leading up to the Grangeshed property. You probably can see like a brief outline of it, providing there's no obstructions or mountains or hills in the way. It looks like flat ground. It's a bit darker there. I don't know if the ground is slightly raised because there could be a blind spot. If there's a blind spot, you might not be able to see as much. But still, kind of within proximity of the area. A person of interest. What did they see on the day? What did they hear? Were they at the home all day, or did they move about throughout the day to visit Brenner? Visit Don Hatley? Did they go on any walks? You know what I'm saying? These are like little questions which could be answered by people if you do have information, or you picked up or heard of stuff along the way. If you do have explanations, feel free to explain the source. Where did it initially come from? Who said it? Where did you hear it from? Let me know in the comment section. So, we said about a couple of miles from Grangeshed to Bibbins Place, and about a mile or so from Sun Tunnels down to here. So, not a great amount of distance, but does it impact the vision of what you can see of what's ahead? As I said, it all comes down to if Bibbins was on site all day or if he moved about. Have they checked Bibbins' phone pings records? I don't know. When it comes to Brenner, never really released phone pings, unfortunately. Very unfortunate, I would say. But, Michelle and Walt's Michelle, over that way. Wouldn't they have seen Bibbins' property from here? Possibly. I don't know if they would have known of Bibbins at the time. It makes you think. With Sun Tunnels being somewhat of a tourist area, does it ever annoy Bibbins? Did Bibbins ever retaliate in the past if people got too close to his property, maybe? I wonder. And linking back to here, the crossroads, right? Looking at it from that way. It looks like flat-ish ground, but I don't know. Maybe the ground it dips down over here. It could dip down. If it dips down, that would be considered a blind spot, making it harder to see what was happening further north. I'm just trying to put it all into perspective. But this yellow line facing south, driving down to this crossroad as the truck driver. Did it go that way, west? Did it go south? Did it go east towards Dylan's farm? Which way did it go? Is there any chance that it could have cut across? Or drove down here to end up going down, which one is it? Down that dirt road here to Bibbins' place. Is that truck driver connected to Bibbins? Does Bibbins know that truck driver? Does Brenner know? I'm throwing links out, questions, just because there's not enough answers, and if anyone does come across this video, they might have some thoughts to throw about. It might start off new discussions, right? But I'd say Bibbins still, well, I guess could still be if there wasn't enough interrogations and methods done. I'd say that Bibbins is a person of interest because of being in the presence of Brenner with time, being in the location too of what went down, and where were they exactly on the day? At home, near to the Grangeshed, or completely out of the area? I'm not quite sure. But at least the home is there. Now, you could move on and say, well, what about the area itself? It's kind of sparse, kind of flat. Is there any possibilities that this area, if it is truly Bibbins, needs searching, investigating, trailer being searched? Is it private property? Is there any signs or post or gateways, not from what I can see here at least. Is this connected to the property over here? Any connections? I don't know. Neighbours, friends or not? Does this area need searching inside the trailer or just the surrounding area? Because it is quite flat and open. Okay? I know Sun Tunnel's a bit of a touristy place. Why would you be burying Dylan there? Well, maybe not directly at Sun Tunnels, but further down in this spot. So I don't know if it's too late to do a poll, or maybe I've done the poll earlier on in this video. Do you think that Bibbins' place of living needs investigating, further searching, as well as the ground too, just like Don Hatley's place of living as well? Does it form a certain line if you do it in a direction? Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, from like how it's been worded supposedly in the past, if we did the distance, I don't know if it's possible to do it diagonally. Just give me a second. No, because it'd be at an angle. It's like there. And then there, total of 5 miles. But obviously significantly longer if you do follow the actual roads as you're supposed to do. Does it remain? I don't know. The way you see that yellow line, it's like you got the midpoint, the Grainshed property down there where Brenner lived. Supposedly where Don Hatley was living, his trailer. And past the midpoint down here, Bibbins' place, supposedly. So you could say it forms kind of like part of a triangular point or so. Not that it's of that much interest. But you get an idea from there to the midpoint there to down here, maybe somewhat equal distance from one to another. So if within that radius Don Hatley is going to be treated as a person of interest, a possible suspect, and still questioned, and there's still suspicion to this day, with that equal distance in mind, the same should apply to Bibbins, with what we've previously heard of with the criminal record and history, worse than Brenner. And about the proximity between the two, knowing each other and one helping the other one out. And more so in recent time with Bibbins getting in trouble himself, unrelated to the Dylan Rounds case, would it lead to any further interrogation or link back to the case? Do you know anything? Did you see anything? I wonder. Does anyone think that Bibbins knows more than what he's, letting out? Right? I don't think there's been really any interviews with him. Did Bibbins do a lie detector test? Don't think so. Seems a little bit quiet, right? But I just wanted to present to you the amount of phone pings and, numerous events which occurred on the day. Quite a busy one with all these timestamps and stuff, and the truck too coming and going. The amount that went on and the fact that Bibbins is not far away from it is kind of interesting. And as I said, that random question put out there, any small chance that Bibbins was linked with that truck or not? Or did the truck go to Bibbins at any point? Just a little question there. At the end of the day, there's only so much that can be said about these events and stuff when we've already gone over it previously. But by adding, locations, new ones to the list of places of interest and also people of interest, it could fill in some new leads in between. I'm thinking of doing some more short videos in the future, highlighting previous interviews and key talking points which may have been brushed over and not acknowledged enough, and some of which will entail Bibbins, right? At the end of the day, besides the talk about Bibbins and Bibbins' past, would we know anything about Bibbins if it wasn't for the odd Montello locals? If they didn't make references there? Maybe, I think Bibbins' name would still come up into conversation, because it was Justin Rounds where I first heard Bibbins' name truly mentioned, right? And some details there where Candice Killy may have brushed it off, but Justin Rounds highlighted it in the Heavy D interview about Bibbins hearing, let me just adjust the tripod, Bibbins hearing about what Brenner said about Dylan at some point previously, that Brenner was willing to kill Dylan. That's what he was going to do, and Bibbins was nearby, heard it. Was it fully true? Well, why would Bibbins say it in the first place? You say it for one of two reasons. You say it because you're a witness, right? You want to add on to the information, or you want to cause a bit of misdirection, deflection elsewhere because you're a part of the problem. One of two ways. So I want to know comments down below. Do you think Bibbins, people can leave as many comments as you want down below to answer my individual questions for the end of this video. Let me know down below. So my first question would be, do you think that Bibbins should be treated as a person of interest in the Dylan Rounds case? And as a follow-up question, do you think he should still be treated as a person of interest? Let me know your answers down below. The next question could be, based off the rough location, just off of Sun Tunnels where Bibbins was living, to you, does it qualify as a place of interest due to the proximity it shares with the likes of Don Hatley's as it does to the Grangeshed property, as we saw? Does it warrant, as a second question follow-up, does it warrant a potential search of that property and land in case anything's been hidden there or buried, right? Any more questions? I guess the final question would be, do you think Bibbins saw or heard anything on the day of Dylan's death? And he's kept quiet since. Let me know your thoughts. I think we'll leave it there for now. If there are any more Dylan Rounds updates or different discussions that should be covered, then I'll try and get round to it. Still got to focus on Kenny Veach, some important video series to cover there. Hopefully most people enjoyed this video. If you do have some suggestions of some Dylan Rounds videos or coverages, let me know down below and I'll see the responses and try and figure out something. New discussions can always lead to new videos, so let's keep it going. And once again, feel free to like and share this video to help spread awareness of the Dylan Rounds case to keep it alive when others out there have walked away. Anything else to finally highlight as a final point? Kind of unrelated to the case, but I will acknowledge it. Some people out there may be aware that there's a lot of drama or conflict going on with certain communities and certain named individuals, as we've always seen. Typical characters and typical stuff going on. Repetitive cycle, same outcome, just a different set of people. Different priorities changing, different allegiances changing, channels, communities imploding upon themselves. The only thing that springs out to me is, number one, I predicted it once again. I predicted that certain people are set up and eventually set up to failure because certain expectations aren't met, inner conflicts within covens cause cracks in the walls, the foundations, and it crumbles. And then people migrate elsewhere and form little subgroups or strengthen together with people that once hated one another but now see the same viewpoint because they've now both finally been through being screwed over by some out there, so now they can relate. They did a little forgive, forget, makeup session. Saying, man, I shouldn't be saying that because this is actually a prediction in its own right. Hold on there, hold the horses. Watch your crazy, hold the printer. Dale, hold on to your birthday card or your little balloons. I don't know. I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about there. Let's just, I'll just mention those predictions shortly. But basically, things are going on in the background. And besides me predicting it once again, as I said from earlier on in the case, but the more you see it now, the more you may hear about it or it's referenced, the less it becomes about Dylan Rounds and true crime as a whole, right? And I know people could say, well, it was never about true crime, nor was it motivated by Dylan Rounds in the first place, all these individuals out there and those on the dark side. Well, yeah, but it was caught up in the Dylan Rounds community early on, drifting from conversations about the case to then most of the time talking about everything else but Dylan Rounds, right? But now it's the true colours have been shown, right? It was never really much to do about Dylan. Not much focus. So now it's less about true crime, the community itself, and most definitely less about the Dylan Rounds community. It's branched away, it's detached, as it was to begin with, but it's only become clearer now visually. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a positive there, that branching away, the parting, that's good. But obviously the negative would be people get caught up in it and people get hurt along the way. And in terms of my next prediction, okay, if there are further cracks within certain communities out there on the dark side, further implosion, and it goes to shit, likely people break away, detach, and then suddenly may no longer like the odd JT out there. So then they branch away and go to the other side, of which former people have been there, done that, and branched away. So this newer wave of people go in the same direction. And those previous ones say, we told you so, this was going to happen, that was going to happen, but you ignored it, you rejected it, and now look where you're at. Made a bit of a prat of yourself. Never mind, we forgive, we forget, make up, ooh, kissy kissy, mwah, mwah. Let's all get together now, sing round the campfire, and strengthen once again. Over and over again. It's like two sides, and they keep moving along, breaking away, and then going on to the other side, to the point where there could be an imbalance in terms of population online. In the middle, you still got the potatoes nestled away in smaller numbers. You got the dark side, more niche than ever, maybe. And then you got the rest, all grouping together, forming their own new group. And it's mainly been positive, but there have been a bit of friction, the odd few people breaking away in between, right? So, as some problems are experienced, new problems will be created in the future when people go in the same direction. Because once cracks show, they will remain until it crumbles once again, okay? Now Tasha will know about foundations and all that because she's been studying with the Roman Empire. And me wearing a bloody red robe as well, Julius Caesar. Oh well. This is just very vague predictions. It might have been poorly worded, but I'm trying to keep it to a minimum. You get me? Because this is about Dylan Rounds still. But some of you will know the wording and the language I've just said then. Take that into mind as for my latest predictions of what to expect next. In general though, hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting, and shout out to all the people that were actively watching. That's much appreciated. Hopefully by the end of this year, maybe be able to reach the milestone of 10,000 subs. If I did, what happens? Does Warlike Ref get whipped and the nips twisted? All kinds of... Do I get swallowed up by Watch Your Crazy's printer? Does the ink cartridges leak all over my face? Do I get tortured by Shichu's clean sheets, strangled? Do I get suddenly involved in some kind of UFC Invitational BJJ tournament with Nancy? I don't know. Anything could happen, okay? Do I get kidnapped by frogs? Who knows? Time will tell, of course, okay? But I'm sure a dodgy video should be necessary if I do manage to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, or briefly going into the new year. Either way, if I do reach the milestone, I'll try and do a dodgy video, okay? I mean, I could do the odd thing, but I don't know. Do you know what? When I say it's under control, it should be under control. We'll do it for medical purposes. For research purposes. That sounds really dodgy, that, but when is it not? We'll see what happens next. But for now, be on the lookout for future videos, the formal ones, serious ones, such as Kenny Veach, and if there's any more breaking news in between, it will be covered here, okay? So goodbye and good night for now.